We've all heard it before. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And while there may be some truth in that, it can be so easy for us in children's ministry to settle in a good enough spirit. This is why I'm so excited about our next segment with my dear friend, Keturah Boston. She is here to talk to us about the dangers of being outdated in children's ministry, whether that is being in an outdated environment or having an outdated mindset. In just a moment, I'll be joined by Keturah Boston. We'll see you soon. All right. All right. Get back in here. I hope you grabbed your coffee, your tea, you took the dog out to pee pee and whatever, relieve themselves. You are back and ready. I am so excited. Whenever I have the, I like to call her the Couture Boston on, I just get so excited and so overjoyed. One, because Couture is just like a legit sister to me. And outside of children's ministry, she knows I harass her and call her, girl, let me tell you what happened to me. But
Yes.
also, every time she is on, every time I have the honor of hearing her speak and hearing the God in her pour out on others, it is just such a joy. I know that she has so much wisdom to share with you. Today, Keturah is talking about the dangers of being outdated in children's ministry. And Keturah, I want to say, when I wrote that in the book, I remember just being like, oh, I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want anybody to feel a certain type of way if they're in the outdated space or something's going on. And just a lot of prayer went into kind of crafting that chapter, and God just began to speak to me on just more, of it's not just outdated space. Yes, that is definitely a part of it, but it's also outdated methods and mindsets, and just to take children's ministry leaders there, because I think in the motions of ministry we can kind of get stuck in and I mentioned this in the book Couture. I talk about a good enough spirit. Oh, that's good enough. No, we've been doing this way since forever. We've been doing this program this way. We don't need nobody coming up in here with new ideas. It's been fine when it's not fine, because things that are created are there for a generation that is foregone. Like the generation, their leaders, some of them have passed away, and they were kids once upon a time, and it's the same thing and the same method. So I'm so excited about you being here and sharing this incredibly delicate yet important topic with all of us here. You guys get your pens and your notebooks and your tablets ready, because Couture is I've not known her not to spit fire every time
Oh,
she speaks. So Couture, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna let you do your thing, and I will be back at the end.
all right. Thank you, Esther. Friends, I'm so excited to hang out with you all. As Esther said, this can be a very delicate topic. And like her, I don't want to offend anyone either. But I do want to challenge your perspective, right? Rethinking the things that we thought we knew, the things that were just good enough, the things that have been okay up until this point, the things that we have been so certain about in children's ministry. And this could mean something different depending on who you are as a listener, right? If you're new to ministry, welcome to children's ministry. But if you've been in here, a couple of years or more, and you have seen some phases and some seasons change, you are the ones that I'm probably talking to the most, because I'm your people. You are my people too. Okay. So one of the first things I want us to jump into is just really understanding when we say outdated, outdated does not mean bad. Okay, let me say that again for whoever was not listening, for them people in the where back. Outdated does not mean bad. And what we want to do in this new season does not mean it's what's best. It just means it's better than doing something that matched another season. So in this season, we really want to rethink and reimagine what it looks like to serve kids in this generation in a context that feels relevant for them. So that's our first point. If you're taking notes, write this down. We want to make sure that we're maintaining a sense of relevance and engagement with our kids. Now, what does relevance mean? It does not mean that the Bible is not relevant. It is relevant, but it is also the job of the leader to show and demonstrate the relevancy of the word of God for children. Meaning, are we giving examples in our language and our props and our programming that help kids see, like, how does this work in my life, and how do I leave here and actually use what I'm learning? So one of the ways we keep things relevant and engaging is through our language. Okay, y'all. So funny story. And some of y'all might be able to relate to this better than others. Again, I'm sorry. I promise I'll have an example that matches your memory. But for this example, I had a servant leader who I was excited to have like lead the Bible story. And so just so you know, fast forward, she did an excellent job. Okay. But our large group of kids was in the room. And just for context, this is a pretty large room. On this particular day, we had our preschoolers, 3 and 4 year olds, all the way up to our fifth graders. So about 11 to 12-year-olds. So large gap, but we're playing games. We're having a good time. And this leader, she's really getting into it. I mean, I can tell that the nerves are gone. She's feeling her help, y'all. She's in the moment, and she references lyrics from the theme song of Three's Company. Y'all. And it was so good. It was so good. I cannot remember exactly the context of the joke, but it was so good, and it felt so nostalgic because there was myself and several other leaders that we had a ball with it. Like, it cracked us up. And then we're talking, we're having side conversations, like, oh my gosh, you remember that? And all of that. You hear the high pitchedness in my voice? Yes, that's where we were. Okay. Just sheer joy, smiling from ear to ear. But as we settled ourselves and she scanned the room, there was this look on her face. And then she did what great leaders do. She reframed her example to bring up a more relevant sitcom that she felt like the kids would better relate to because of their ages. So I appreciate her correcting on the spot, but there were times where I did not. I'm sure I've said things, and maybe you have too, that have gone completely over the head of someone because of my language and my references. And so that is one way that we can remain outdated, is not, I guess, being current in what we understand and know about the generation and the kids specifically that we serve. Okay. All right. So let's move into number 2. This is more effective communication, but it's not just the words we say. It's a couple of things here. Now, I have 2 grown kids. Yes, I appreciate y'all. Pray for me when you think about me. Okay. Keturah Boston. I have 2 kids in college, and I have one that is in high school. So Aaron and Symphony are in college. Zion is still in high school, and Zoe is in middle school. I feel like I have 2 different sets of kids. My husband and I, we talk about this all the time, because when the 2 oldest kids were in elementary and early middle school, we were not contending. You hear me? Because I mean, fight like knockout, drag out. We were not contending with technology, with apps and cell phones in those earlier years. The way we found ourselves having to contend with them and teach towards them, and even set expectations and rules and regulations in our home for how we manage technology, like we had to do with our younger kids. This is a real thing. Is it bad? No. But our teaching style in our home, our discipleship model in our home had to be revisited, because the rules of engagement that worked before with the first 2 kids, and we thought we'd done a decent job. I mean, I don't know. You can ask them, ask Aaron and Symphony, right? We thought we were doing great, but we had to rethink that this is a new generation of kids that were born in a different time. They're using different things in a different way. And, you know, there's a saying that goes, if you can't beat them, join them. And so in this regard, we had to learn more about the technology that they were engaging with. So we started doing things as a family. My daughter loves slime. Our kids at church started loving slime. So we brought that in, and we actually recorded my daughter at home teaching kids at church, and letting the kids at church learn how to make slime as a science project within our children's ministry and recording that and using it as a reel to share on social media. Same things the kids are already doing, but we said, let's leverage this to really get their attention. But we didn't stop there. We used that same video. We used the graphic image and put it on the screen for the large group to see on a different Sunday and use voiceover to turn it into a lesson, okay? A Bible lesson that made the Word of God feel more relevant and applicable to them. Right? Not bad stuff. Now, that's probably my best idea. So don't be too impressed. If you're not impressed, don't be. Let's keep going. Just give me a shot. I got more. All right. So, number 3, retention and impact. When we're outdated in our methods and in our thinking, we do more harm than good, and it's unintentional. But we need to be more intentional, right? Just because we don't have bad intentions, do not mean that we have positive impacts all the time. I had to rethink some of the criteria for even onboarding servant leaders to our team. And I know for some of you, this might feel like, was she gatekeeping? And some of you understanding you're not, and you're like, absolutely, that's important. You have to do that. But for me, it was really hard because I didn't want to feel like a gatekeeper. I did not want to feel like I was setting a criteria and setting standards that would be so hard that, people who wanted to serve could not. And we all know kids ministry needs servant leaders and volunteers like we need goldfish. I mean, they are an essential. They are the lifeblood of the church. We need them. We absolutely need them. But what I did understand through a lot of prayer, and God helping me to reconcile between the emotion of my heart and the intellect of my mind and wanting to put the proper people in front of these children, to actually sit down and say, there has to be a better standard, the way we ask questions and what type of mindset these individuals are coming in with. We need to know that. God's word tells us to know those that labor among us, right? And so in order to know them, we had to start going from you past the background check to we need to have a conversation. So, oh guys, y'all done pulled me out. I have not talked about this since one of our last workshops. And that was maybe a year ago where I really had to bring this up because it was that important. But we had a servant leader sometime in 2023. She'd gotten background check cleared. She had worked in education for years, loved children. By her own admission, has spent a lot of time working with children in a previous church in ministry, did that for several years. No, we didn't ask for recommendations, but there was just something about the way her face lit up when she said, I would like to have more information. And I was happy to give her that information all the way home. I was glad about the opportunity to get to talk to her, on Zoom later on in the week. And so we were having a conversation, and I just gave her a couple of scenarios about her just to kind of gauge her sensitivity to certain things, specifically parents, because they mean a lot to us. I asked the question, I said, if there was a child that was not living up to the expectations behaviorally, and we needed to correct that, how would you go about correcting that child? The second question was going to be, which we never really got deeply into, that was, how would you explain or communicate that to the parent if it had gotten to the point where we needed to go ahead and make sure that we made parents aware? Well, right off the bat, she said, first of all, I don't play that. Oh, okay, not a deal breaker because I don't play that either, except for when I play that, right? Because I'm in children's ministry, I play that sometimes, but I had a feeling it was going downhill, y'all. She said, the same thing that worked for me has always worked for the kids that I have served, and I've been doing this a long time. One pinch on the back of the arm, and we are good. I said, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. And I wish I had a more tactful and diplomatic way to let her know that response was not appropriate. But the first thing out of my mouth, and I felt every child on my back carrying them saying, no, ma'am, you may not pinch a child in this ministry. So we get past that, and she makes a couple of more comments, but I try to go on a little bit further and get to the portion where I'm asking her about the conversation with the parent, which obviously if she had pinched a child in our ministry, that would have been a totally different conversation. But I did move to, how would you communicate with a parent, regarding their child and their experience, good and the not so good? She said, well, one thing parents need to know is that this is voluntary. I don't get paid. And if they don't like the way we do things, they can keep their child in church with them. Y'all, the audacity. We give out free coffee and donuts, but I wanted to text the deacons and ask, were we giving out free audacity the weekend before? Because I could not believe my ears. But the other thing was, oh, long story short, we did reroute her to our parking lot ministry, and she did serve there for another year until her family did move, and it seemed to be a great fit for her. And so, no judgment as far as that, but it was not a good fit for children's ministry. The way the way I almost fell apart when I got off the line, it reminded me of that there is some outdated thinking that is actually literally dangerous if we're not mindful, not just of what we do and say, because as a children's ministry pastor myself, it is not my job to be the boss of any adult. You understand what I'm saying? But I steward the yes of every adult. I steward the desire and the need of every child. And I steward the trust of every parent that brings their trusted little people to us, their most beloved people to us, saying that I trust you, okay? Regardless of their behavior, regardless of their needs, they are trusting us. And so that level of stewardship is enough. And it was enough then. And I said, Lord, I thank you because I needed a real eye opener. The Keturah that felt so bad about raising the standards and the expectations no longer felt that level of guilt. I said, not only should I do this, but this is necessary because we must move forward, and not being outdated in our thinking is just important as not being outdated in our environments, in our language, and in the way we bring on volunteers to serve these young people. Now, I mentioned environment. Sometimes we can't really do anything about our environments. Personally, for me, every time I have served in children's ministry, and this was over 23 years ago, I started out as an older teenager. I was a young person who was young enough to serve with the kids, but old enough to be left alone with them. So kind of voluntold. Anybody else been there? Just me? No, I got one. Okay. Well, that was my situation. And so it looked like a lot of things to begin with. Sometimes it looked like a side room in whatever building we were renting out. Sometimes it looked like a basement. I'm familiar with that. Grew up with the cookies and punch in the basement. By the grace of God, we were safe. We had a good time, but it was different. I have been in large gym spaces, and I mean, a gym, it had basketball goals and volleyball nets wound up in the corner, and we just had this wide open, high ceilinged room. And we're charged with keeping the kids off the bleachers because that's not safe, right? So I've been in all kinds of situations, and I've also been in rooms that were designated for children's ministry. And I am currently in a place that has a facility designated for children. So I'm so grateful for my church for that. So I said all that to say there is no judgment. You don't always have control over the environment and the spaces that you have. But space and environment are two different things. So let's make the distinction, okay? If you're jotting notes still, I hope you are. This is one. Space is one thing. Space means how much real estate, how many square feet do we have to move around comfortably with the number of children that we have? Can we accomplish the activities, the games, the goals, whatever we want to do? Is that space large enough or the right size to be conducive to what we say we want to achieve in that space? Now, the environment is everything else in the space that makes it feel like a place we want to be. Your home environment. When you find your home, if you've ever looked for an apartment or a house, you wanted to know if there was an open floor concept. You wanted to know the condition of the master bathroom and bedroom, right? You wanted to know about the backyard. If you like to sit out on a back patio, I do. You want to know about those kinds of things. But while the home is empty, it's just a space. The environment you create is the one that happens when you start bringing in your personal items, the thing that really brings space and home together and creates an environment that makes that space feel like a place you want to be. So think about that. I've been in places where kids are still sitting in cafeteria style places, and maybe they're borrowing it from a school. And so they don't have the liberty to, put all their things up and leave them up every week. They're build up, tear down kind of situations. So we know that you can't control all of that. But what can you control? Because that matters. For example, one year I was serving in a location where we were in a similar kind of location, and it was very tight. We could not put up things permanently. But you know what we did? I had a servant leader that said, I've got all of our posters with the Bible, the names of God, the books of the Bible, the names of God, and all other kinds of sunshiny things. And she hole punched the top of these little, what are they? Cardboards that you can buy them in the dollar stores, but they're like posters that you can hang up. Well, she hole punched the top, she threaded them with yarn and made hangers out of them. She brought push pins and hung them up in different places of the wall. Now, she put them in clear because she figured that even when the school was in session, they probably wouldn't notice clear push pins in different places. So she left those in the wall, and every week she brought them back and hung them up just to add to the space. We also brought in things like plugins just to enhance the way it smelled in the environment. Okay, little things like that. And of course, there's tons of more things. But when we think about being outdated, the things that worked and that were relevant, even the characters or the paintings or the things that are on the walls, you have to think. Sometimes kids don't connect to a space because they don't connect to the things that are in the space. So if we want kids to be engaged and excited about the space that they're in, to learn what they're going to learn with the people who love them, we want to make sure that that environment is kind of conducive to fostering that and making sure that that happens. Fair enough? All right. Now, I don't want you to miss opportunities for effective evangelism because some of these things may be out of control. Are you hearing the things that are? See, like your language is a part of your control, and maybe your space is out of your control, but you can manage the environment a little bit, right? And we talked about mindsets. Those are things that we can kind of manage with some training or some vetting. But what about our worship in spaces? True story. This didn't happen at church, but it almost did. I was listening to and building a playlist. I just figured out how to use Apple iTunes on my cell phone. And I'm looking for music that I like, my own gospel music, but I started going to songs that I really liked and grew up with and just remembering how they made me feel. I mean, I was bawling listening to Fred Hammond on, one of the songs that I put on the playlist. I mean, just bawling my eyes out. And I was like, oh, those kids need this song. They need this song. And because I am torn up. You hear me? I'm in full blown worship. I'm like, oh, I remember this. I remember my mom worshiping, cleaning the kitchen on a Saturday, much like today, right? And then me hearing it from my bedroom and just witnessing that. And it just brought back so many memories. Anybody else? Think of your song. What is your song? I mean, okay, if it's not a song, what is your jam? You hear me? Because we have one. Or 10, because I love music and I love dancing. But this one was for me. And so I got one of my kids in the car. I think we were either picking up from a friend or picking them up from school. And I said, you have got to hear this song. Let me tell you something. You're about to be all across that back seat, like in my mind, right? So I put on this song and I'm going in again, and I'm tapping the steering wheel and I'm pumping the brakes at every stop sign because I'm like dancing and worshiping in this car, headed back to the house, and I'm just in it. And I'm looking in the rearview like, what's wrong with this joker? Not the same experience, not the same impact. And was that okay? Yes. So of course, if you know me, you know me. I turned down the music. I was like, what is going? Do you not hear the words? Like, what, you don't like this song? And she said, no, it's not that I don't like it. It's nice. It's a nice song. Did you used to listen to this back in the day? Huh? Back in the day. Okay, so long story short, I ended up finding out some of their favorite songs, and their dad did the same thing. And it was kind of a learning experience. And I learned that in children's ministry, one of the things I could do really well was give kids an opportunity to share with us what music was on their heart. So we would say, what song about Jesus or loving Jesus or serving Jesus or how good he is? has been on your heart? What are your parents listening to in the car with you that when you hear it, you actually like to sing along? Then we included the parents and we're like, what are y'all listening to throughout the week? So let me tell you, this is probably one of the best things I ever could have done in kids ministry because they just thought I was brilliant. But I learned from a personal experience, and I just transferred and generalized that knowledge over into children's ministry. And when I asked the kids and the parents to help us build a playlist, we came up with a fire playlist that everyone was excited to engage in. And here's the thing, when kids worship in our children's ministry, it's not just about the music, but the music is important because the lyrics matter. Not just the emotions that the beat or the sound and all of that stuff invokes, but the lyrics. What are they saying? So that was a part of my homework too. Listening to the lyrics. Are they doctrinally and biblically accurate? Right. And then after that, okay, we can narrow down this list of 30, right, to maybe about 10, and we can start introducing these. But I wanted kids to be able to share with the group, hey, this was the song that I picked for the week. Does anyone, and anyone else know about this song? And hearing some of their peers say, I didn't know about this song, or yes, I know this song, and saying, well, we're going to usher in the presence of the Lord together. And if you don't know the words of this song, that's okay. You can listen. You can read the words on the screen. We have the lyrics up, or you can just close your eyes and you can just pray. And if you know the song, you can sing along. That made more of a difference than I think me trying to pick or me gathering and galvanizing my team of volunteers and saying, let's pick out a playlist that we all love and presenting it to the kids. So that was powerful. I think for our last one, as we get ready to wind up, parental support and trust. Let's talk about this because I'm a parent too. Parental support and trust in your ministry is more important than you think. And I do not subscribe to the mindset of like, we're watching their kids, we are ministering to their kids, we're discipling their kids, and most of us or none of us are paid to do it. They just ought to be grateful. And while to a certain degree, I empathize with your heart in that. I want you to feel valued as a leader, as a volunteer. I want you to know your worth, but more importantly, I want you to know your why. And not all parents understand exactly what they need from the ministry. They don't always understand what a good, healthy, balanced discipleship model looks like when it comes to partnering with the parents and the church. They don't always know that, but we have a missing piece that we can fill in. And there's a part of what they do at home that we may not fully understand, just like there's a piece of what we do with their kids in ministry that they may not fully understand. But we change that through conversation and communication. And so their trust is built and it's on the strength of our ability to communicate with them. This mindset of you just go in the sanctuary, what we do here is what we do here is done. Gone are the days of working and trying to disciple in silos, because the truth is, it's more of a division than it is discipleship. It is more of division than it is discipleship when we do not partner with parents, and we cannot partner with them if they don't have a reciprocated trust for us. We have to trust them to be the best parents that they can be. And even if you know that some parents could try harder, be comforted and be encouraged in the fact that they are still showing up, that God's word is still going out, that they are still in a community of believers that can intercede for them and that can help build them up wherever they've been torn down, because we don't know where they come from. And be confident in knowing that because God is with you and he knows every single family story, he knows every single child's story, he is going to help you. Don't dismiss or discount the power of prayer and seeking God for doing a new thing in a new time, in a new season. To everything, there is a season. To everything under the sun, there is something new happening all the time. Let me tell you this. We know that with the disciples and Jesus, right? We know that Peter was maybe one of the oldest, and we know that Matthew may have been a little bit more mature himself, possibly in his 20s. We know that he had a career as a tax collector, and the other ones probably fell somewhere in the lower age ranges, correct? In Matthew 13, 34, and 35, we know that Jesus demonstrates, and I mentioned this order it earlier, he demonstrates to us his willingness to break down the word that he needed to share so that they could understand. This is all about making sure that the message reaches the audience. That's the mission. That is the mission. That is why it's so dangerous to be outdated in children's ministry, because guess what? They're constantly growing and changing. They're constantly evolving. So are the times. And if you are still in Christ, friends, so are you. You're not behind. I don't care how far behind you think you are. It doesn't even matter your age. What I have said to even parents and grandparents raising kids, I said, you probably have been more exposed to technology than you know. Because if you went through the 45, the A track, the record player, the Walkman, the CD player, the boom box, the cassette player, hitting play and record at the same time to record your favorite song on the radio station on a blank tape, or not having a blank tape and having to fill the little holes of a cassette and put clear tape over it so that you could record over it again, from using two VCRs to record a blockbuster video that you should not have been recording. Listen, okay, never said it. You have been exposed to so much technology. I mean, the refrigerators, the microwaves, the push start vehicles, the automatic drive, going from standard to automatic vehicles. Guys, you are equipped. You can learn what apps kids are on. You can learn the technology. You can help them leverage their technology in healthy ways. Everything that you need to serve well is inside of you. Trust God and be encouraged. And look, I wouldn't tell you no lies. The only thing I'm going to tell you is the truth. And if you are still in children's ministry and over this weekend you don't want to leave, that means you have been chosen for such a time as this. And I can tell you, and I probably don't have to, but I'm going to do it anyway. If there was ever a time where we really needed strong, solid in the word leaders, prayerful, fasting, and believing leaders, it is now. And you're the one for the job. I'm so grateful.
Oh my goodness, Keturah, this was such an incredible treat. Can I tell you, I love how you mentioned how you may not be in control of the space, but you are in control of the environment. And I think, oh man, I know for me, I like wrote that down and circled it like 50,000 times. I know
Amen.
that there are so many people who join our conversations, and they're limited with the spaces and the things that they have, and the enemy convinces us
Yeah.
that because we're limited there, that we're limited in every other area. And I'm like, mm-mm,
I,
mm-mm. We are totally in control of that environment. God has put everything in us
yeah.
that we need to create incredible environments. He has gifted us with wisdom and with creativity. If we would take the scales off and stop looking here at these spaces and look up to him, we would just receive. And I know so many of you have received so much. I have 2 pages of notes with Keturah on just outdated. I soaked it up and I loved everything. Keturah, thank you so much for
Thank you.
hanging out with us at this wake up call virtual gathering for children's ministry workers. Um, I just love this. I love this. You guys, do not go away because we got more coming for you. I feel like a broken record today. But it is totally worth it. Just there's so much incredible content. Hey, if you are watching and you're like, oh my goodness, I gotta get my friend on here. Oh my goodness, there is somebody I know who is co-laboring alongside me and they need to hear this stuff. They need to hear this content. Go ahead, send them a text message because we are not done yet. It is the wake up call. Okay, we are waking leaders up, and it is an incredible time together. Keturah, thank you. Look, I cannot thank you enough. Look, until the next time I harass you again to join us yet again for another event.
Anytime.
So you guys don't go away. We're gonna take a quick break, but be back here in just a second. We'll see you soon.